Hi, this is Ramona Zabriskie. Looking forward to a happier new year? Since the quality of your relationship has more impact on your happiness than just about anything else, you will need this big year-end overview of the 7 timeless principles that saved our marriage and that will transform yours.
Bags are packed, are you ready to go? This time tomorrow we'll be on the road, riding with you in the sunnier days. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Welcome to the WifeSavers Podcast, where multi-award-winning author and global marriage educator Ramona Zabriskie provides answers to your real wife questions. Our goal is to help you appreciate your womanhood, prioritize your personal development, and craft a powerful partnership with the man in your life. Hi, I'm Hannah Allen, and I'm proud to introduce my parents, Ramona and Dale Zabriskie. And yes, this is how they talk all the time. Let's listen.
Taking the good with the ups and downs.
Hi, this is Dale Zabriskie, and we're sitting here with Ramona Zabriskie, contemplating our 42 years together. It's our anniversary month this month.
It is.
And it's been a fabulous 15,343 days.
Whoa, you figured that out? 15, what was it?
1,343. But
343 days?
but who's counting, really?
That's crazy. No. Wait, if you think about how many kisses we've had in that many days, well, no, we're not always together, so we can't kiss every day. But the days we're together, we get in a few kisses.
Well, I have to say that the reason that you're saying that is because when we first met, our first kiss was on stage. And then later we got a little closer and you had to ask me to kiss you, which, for the guys, I'm sorry. I had to be asked. And then you decided you wanted to count how many kisses we had that summer.
The summer we were performing.
When we were performing together. And when I heard that.
I counted them.
What you wanted to. And so and as soon as I heard that, my goal was to make it impossible for you to keep count. So.
No, I have to admit, on my personal Google Calendar, the day of the year pops up that says your first kiss. With
really?
Belle. Yes.
Wow.
I keep track of that anniversary. I don't know if I've ever really pointed that out to you, but okay.
That was important.
I guess we all know that I think kisses are kind of important.
That's right.
I do. I love kissing. I think that it's symbolic and it means a lot, but there's microphones between the two of us right now, or I'm over there giving you a smack.
I'll take it.
Well, it is symbolic. It's symbolic of our love and our solidarity. It's also sometimes symbolic of overcoming conflict, miscommunication, falling out.
All sorts of challenges.
Yeah, exactly. And we have had our challenges. So that 42 years is an accomplishment, don't you think?
Oh, without question. I mean, it's I tell people I've been married 40 years, been married 42 years, and sometimes I have to clarify, to the same woman, because that's...
You can't take that for granted.
No, that's right.
Anymore, really.
And of course it is, it's very impressive, and not that that's the reason, but it is an accomplishment.
We're kind of proud of it. Actually, I blasted it everywhere this year.
Proud of being old fuddy-duddies or whatever you want to call it.
Well, we hope that actually our longevity is a great advantage to our podcast listener. We try to share our wisdom with you. And let me tell you, it is working for some of our listeners. Listen to this letter. Dear Ramona, I wait for each new episode of the WifeSavers Podcast with great anticipation. I cherish the new perspective I get and the chance to hear you and Del teach with love. Isn't that lovely?
Oh, that's nice.
You both are truly an inspiration for me. And she goes on to talk about how that She has 3 little ones, 5, 3, and 2 years old, one with disabilities. And she says at this point, it's the hardest stage of life we have ever experienced. In the midst of trying to keep our boys alive,
not killing each other,
and get through school. I think she's referring to them, maybe dad, maybe
medical
both
school,
of them.
or extended. Yeah.
Live within our small means and figure out this parenting thing. My husband and I grew so far apart. At our darkest time this year, I had him move out.
Wow.
Yucks. And prepared to make the separation final. That's when I learned about you and your story. And just for those who don't know our story, we talked about those really happy times back when we were counting kisses. But all that kissing and joy lasted a couple years.
There's a little break in the kiss counting.
We sort of lost the plot, gave up on counting kisses, and the years and the months that we were together, and we separated. And I did count those months. It was about 6 months that we were separated. And then just before divorce court was going to finalize the whole thing, like she used that word final, the separation final. Yeah. That was about to happen for us 4 days away from that. You reached out to me, suggested we try again, and the rest is history. Yeah, and here we are. So I'm glad that she learned about our story and applied it to her story. She says, I have found so much comfort from your experience and have found the strength to be the cause of change and inspiration for my own small family. I find joy in applying what you have shared, and I'm so grateful to have my best friend and companion back in our home and on my side again.
I love that cause of change.
Yes.
You kind of have to make that decision.
She took it upon herself. And how many of us, or how many people out there, resist saying, why should I have to do anything? He should have to do it too. And we've talked a lot about that in previous podcast episodes, how that kind of thinking just never breaks the stalemate. Someone has to be the agent of change. And when you do start making changes, your partner can't help but start to make adjustments to your changes.
Yeah, totally.
And for the most part, that's a really positive step forward when one or the other of you decides to be that agent of change. And look what she says. She's got her best friend and companion, she says, on my side again. Right. I want to talk a lot about that today, how to be on one another's side. I'm on your side. I'm on your side.
Come on over here and see if I kiss you on this side.
Well, it is December when we are recording this, and we just celebrated Christmas, and that's something we kind of do every year. We celebrate our anniversary and our Christmas together.
One little word of the wise, don't get married in December. Okay, just a little helpful tip.
Our pictures were standing out in the, knee-deep snow going blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that was
There's enough going on in December that you should add a anniversary to it as well.
I think your uncle said, next time you get married, do it in June. As he's standing out there teeth chattering. Right. But there's lots of reasons, but we didn't care. We didn't care about all those reasons back then. We just wanted to get it done and be married as fast as possible.
So official kissing is what we were looking for.
We were so excited about being married that we didn't care that my mom made the cakes from scratch. And we had way too much at the end. And we didn't care if the decorations were snowflakes cut out of paper and scotch taped to the wall. There wasn't a lot of resources put into our wedding because my parents didn't have a lot of money back then, but we didn't care. No, we were just so thrilled to be married. And luckily, we did pick up the pieces and started to put things back together. And over time, we learned a lot about how to do that. And today's Throw Me a WifeSaver question has to do with what have we learned in those 42 years. And I picked this question for this episode because I think we're going to be able to sort of not only talk about the important things we've learned during that, sort of summarize them, but it also summarizes what we've talked about throughout the year on this podcast. Okay. We can really boil it down to 7 principles.
Good. I'm glad you didn't say deadly sins, because that's kind of the thing that may pop into mind. So.
Right. No.
Okay.
No, the opposite.
Exactly right.
Opposite.
7 good things that have led the way.
Now, this WifeSaver that sent the question is from Kenya. And she's so enthusiastic about WifeSavers that she calls herself, she's appointed herself, the WifeSavers Kenyan ambassador.
She's very serious about it.
Yes, you've met her.
I have.
She says, life has been very beautiful for me from almost being separated. So they lost the plot too. And now a wedding in the next 3 weeks. Then she asks me for something. She wants a wedding gift from me. So I'm thinking, do I mail her a book? What does she want? She says, I want a gift from my mama bear, that's what she calls me, that will have meaning in my whole married life. Something I will hand over to my daughters and daughters-in-law as a legacy.
Wow, she's really thinking out there.
Yeah, she's expecting a lot.
Yeah.
Something that can never expire. It doesn't have to be expensive, but definitely beautiful. I want to know, this is what she wants. I want to know if you and your hubby will just share with me and my hubby good advice in marriage. Then she puts in this little postscript, we're not young, but we still don't know everything. I like that. I love you, Mama. Ready for this? I wish I came for honeymoon there. She would want to spend her honeymoon with me.
We kind of set her straight on that one. So.
She would love to come to America and see us. Well, that is just a really big, demanding, huge question. So I'm thinking, how can we encompass, the most important things that we have learned in 15,343. 43, is that right? Yeah. Days of trial and error. We have also been quite purposeful and intentional in seeking out marriage education and so forth.
Well, I think that's the thing, the big inflection point or change. I know for me, you said we were separated, and I'm the one who kind of instigated getting back together. It's because I realized that where I was after 6 months and what I had committed to and then given up on, was like, come on, let's give it a chance, a try. Let's work at it. Yeah. And so that type of shift and change is critical as a catalyst to succeeding in really anything, especially in relationship.
Mindset,
yeah.
Like, I'm going to be intentional about this.
Yeah,
I'm going to work it. I'm going to learn what I need to do. I'm going to change what I need to change.
And that's what, this lovely lady from Kenya, who's in an interesting culture, Kenya, and relationships and marriage and such.
Every culture
very, very different.
A little different.
And but she and her husband are committed very much to learning and growing. And as she says, they're not young. They got married a little later. So there's some maturity there and some life lessons there that they're trying to build on, and now realizing that together it takes, a shift, a change to make it happen.
And they have a vision.
Yeah, they really do.
So I want to talk about that vision, maybe closer to the end of our discussion together. What is the vision, that will get you through everything.
All the stuff.
All the stuff. I like when you say all the stuff that life throws at you. All right. Well, I boiled this down to 7 principles or practices, and I didn't really do it intentionally as 7, but the number 7 is kind of a spiritual number.
In lots of cultures and
it represents intuition, wisdom, a deep inward knowing, and it means that positive energy, positive things are flowing toward you. So I think that's very true of these 7 principles. Let's get that positive energy flowing into our marriages. All right, so here we go. I'm calling this the 7 secrets to an amazing marriage.
I need drum rollers. I'm sorry. We'll put in some sound effects later.
All right, number 1. And since you're so good at counting, you can count.
Okay, number 1. I'm good. I got that one.
Okay. This first principle is what makes your marriage as a partnership different and more powerful than any other kind of partnership. There's lots of different partnerships in the world, kinds of partnerships.
I see what you're saying.
But I'm talking between a man and a woman and a marriage. This first principle is what makes that relationship different from any other kind of relationship. Are you getting a clue what it is?
I think so.
Oh, I forgot to give you another clue.
Oh, like I need one? Okay,
These
give me another
7
clue.
principles are going to be so easy to remember. So if you're taking notes, that's good. But I don't even know if you need to, because here it is. They all start with a letter of the alphabet that comes in order. So we got R. It starts with R.
It would be the word sequential.
Sequential. That's the word. RSTUVW.
Okay.
And I'll tell you about the end of the alphabet at the end of the podcast.
That's, there's more.
Number 7
Okay.
is
All
the
right.
surprise.
Really hanging on the edge here for that last part.
So,
number 1.
We're starting with R, right?
Right.
Romance.
Very important.
Romance is what brings us together today.
Okay. Guys, are you listening to this? This is very, very important.
Romance, really now, romance is that powerful principle that gives your partnership the extra special oomph or power, really, when 2 people are committed to each other romantically. And here's what romance means. You are my everything, and I love being your intimate. That's the message.
That's what flowers means.
And yes,
right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Whatever you consider romantic, it can be a million different things. That's at the heart of it. You're telling your loved one, you are my everything, and I love being your intimate. And what that really means is I love being close to you, right? Physically and emotionally. And even when I'm not near you, I am thinking about you. Yeah?
Yeah, I'd say that's something that, and okay, from the guy point of view here, there's so much stereotypes about romance and being romantic and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the challenge that it tends to be for, generally speaking, for guys. But what the thing in my 15,343 days that I've learned is that what you're saying is so true, that I can and have had the ability to, or make the choice to impact our relationship in a romantic way in lots of different ways that really speak to your definition here.
It does take you you said that it doesn't come supernaturally.
No, and
it does take a little forethought.
It takes forethought and it takes learning.
Oh,
right?
That's the
exciting part of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the juicy journey. The juicy part of it for the woman.
So when I give
he had to get out of his own head, out of his own world, out of his own agenda to do this or to say that.
So a vacuum cleaner for your anniversaries, I learned, is not a good thing, right? Type thing.
It doesn't quite have the ring of a piece of
iron.
jewelry.
I tried the iron.
But for some couples, maybe that's very thoughtful and considered very romantic. I'm not going to say what's romantic or not. It's going to be different from every couple. Of course, there are
some
comments, some stereotypes. But
That's
a
right.
lot of what we think of as romantic is put in our heads, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
By books and television and media stories, we're told this is romantic.
I mean, they even make a day for it, right? They have to force guys into doing something by making a day.
Unfortunately, all of that can kind of set us up for a lot of false expectations and so forth. For instance, I do love you being romantic, but I don't, it isn't quite as important to me as it was as a younger woman. And that's because I think I needed reassurance back then. I needed reassurance. And now, after all these years, I am rock solid sure of where I stand in your world and in your esteem.
Okay, so that kind of answers or prompts this question for me is, from your point of view, why, right?
Why romance?
Why is it so important to the relationship? And in what experience have we had that things that I've done, or not necessarily that I've done?
You want to know?
No, I'm just thinking, what are the things that stick out?
That could be helpful to a listener.
Or whatever.
Yeah, especially a husband. And hey, you know what? If your husband isn't listening right now, go get him. Go get your guy. Say, hey, honey, come listen to this. Or, I have heard from a number of couples who both listen to the WifeSavers podcast. He'll listen to it on the way to work. She'll listen to it on her way to work. And then they talk about it later. So this would be a great episode for that. All right. So, you're asking me to represent my gender.
Please.
And explaining romance. That's really hard. But I'm going to try
romance. Okay, but I'm not explaining romance.
Why it's important.
Yeah, and what it does for you, and what it counteracts, perhaps, maybe.
Okay.
What it helps to overcome.
I think that the women I know and love, and that's a gazillion of them, that women's hearts are gifted how do I say this? Gifted with an extraordinary capacity for devotion. Look at a mother.
Okay, sure. You have to be totally devoted.
And so I feel like as a woman, I am naturally gifted or attuned, or however you want to think of it, to create love, to sustain love, to grow love, and most importantly, to receive love. I am the ultimate lover, if you will. Lover of beauty, lover of goodness, lover of mystery, of joy, of connection, of intimacy. That all creates a great desire in me for the manifestations of love, meaning expressions of I value you, I cherish you, I treasure you.
So the romantic things that are enabled in a marriage or experienced in the marriage speak that language for you.
Yes, they make me happy.
Connect, right.
Because love and relationships are really the sum of my existence.
So
studies have shown that women are base almost every thought, prayer, and action on relationships. They are relationship-oriented creatures. Absolutely.
But I like that. I think that may be eye-opening to some to look at it in that way, that it's not just, oh, he thinks about me, he cares about me, he bought me flowers, he took me to dinner, or whatever, fill in the blank.
Okay.
That it's not just about time or attention.
Oh, yes, it is.
But
it's
it is, but
not
just. It's not just because it speaks to something that's deeper and more central to you.
Well, in that sense, if I really comprehend what we're talking about here, your expressions towards me that make me feel valued, I can count new tires on my car that you put on there, or that vacuum cleaner you referred to as being exceptionally romantic.
Well, the tires I could buy. I think the vacuum cleaner is a bit of a stretch, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm caring for you by making sure their safety and such. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So I love what Esther Perel says about romance, and we talked about that in our podcast, episode 31, Romance and Desire That Last, that the verb for love is to have. I love you. I have you. I cherish you, right? And the verb for desire is to want. And romance is kind of the space in between. You have each other.
The glue.
You have each other in a sense once you've committed to one another in marriage, but you want each other too. And there's this space in between that you can kind of create some tension.
Right.
You know? So it's all about creating that sense of wanting and enjoying. So it does take being a little proactive. I
or
want
as you say,
you
intentional,
and I enjoy
right,
you,
or purposeful.
right? So if your honey bunny is listening right now, I'd like to say this to the guys. How do you do romance? You thrill her by filling her with your attention, your time, your energy, and your manifestations, if you will, of how she is so preeminent in your life, so necessary to your well-being and your happiness that you think she's beautiful. Whatever you can to express that to her is romantic. Thrill her by filling her.
I like that.
Now that takes a lot of energy and being proactive, like we say, mental energy to think, what can I do to do that? It can be very simple things, playful things like spinning her around in the kitchen or whatever. And it can also be grand things like the year of my birthday that you were traveling, you were in China, you were feeling guilty that you weren't home with me on my birthday. And so you sent me flowers. Well, of course, that's lovely and romantic. But what makes that year so stand out in my mind is the next day you sent me flowers. And the next day, there were more flowers at the doorstep. And the next day, another bouquet until the whole week, 7 days passed, and every day was a new luscious bouquet of, these crazy, amazing, exotic flowers and blossoms. And so that just blew me away. I'll never forget it. And I knew right then I'd be devoted to you come hell or high water for the rest of my life.
But you know what it really was?
That's what romance does.
And it wasn't so much that I was away, that I felt bad that you were at home, as I felt bad that you weren't with me.
Oh.
That's how I felt, And I think that's been how we've developed in our relationship.
Yeah, that's true. I felt like you wanted to be with me. You wanted me to be with you.
That was the best way I could.
You were eating blowfish, and I was having peanut butter sandwiches with the kids at home. But I knew you wanted me. So there you go. There's that wanting in there. All right. That is number one then.
Okay.
R.
Roll
romance.
your R for romance.
Right. Okay. Ready?
S.
Thank you.
Yes. It was my job. I was told I was supposed to keep track.
The second principle is now that we're going to talk about counters the fear of losing one another or of betrayal, abandonment, apathy, or neglect. Those kind of fears erode a relationship.
Yeah, they chip away.
Yes, they eat away at it. So one of the things we do in WifeSavers is learn a lot about the fears that are hidden even in our own hearts. We're not even fully aware of them, but they do motivate or prompt certain behaviors that are detrimental to our relationship. So this principle is going to counter some of those fears. And it starts the letter S, and it is security. So we want to build a sense of security in our relationship, which means, and here's the message, however you express it, here's the heart of it, I will never leave you, and I will never leave you wanting.
I think a lot of things for us in our relationship around security have been, how can I say this? The things that I've realized help provide the security for you, let me put it that way, kind of run the gamut from emotional
Yes,
and
I need
physical
emotional security.
connection. But I know you've always said how much stronger you feel or secure you feel when calm when the food is in the house, the cupboards are
when
full,
the cupboards are
where
full,
the
yes.
the things are provided, and and everybody goes through challenges when they financially or what have you.
Oh, yes.
But that leads into like I said, the idea of security has both emotional, physiological, philosophical,
and more practical, temporal.
Right, tangible things.
You think about financial security. Why do they call it that? It actually does provide a sense of security to the relationship.
Exactly.
When I know that our resources are going to be there and that we're going to share them equally and
however it's set up, and
exactly.
that you can go do the things you need to do.
Yeah, and that you're not going to do something with those resources that I don't agree with or whatever. It really mitigates a lot of potential conflict if you're both committed to this idea of security across the board. I love that.
Yeah.
Emotional and materialistic all the way across. All right. Well, I know that I and most women that I know always deep down have a little fear of losing our husbands, either, through death or walking away or emotionally. We feel like, I'm losing you. And we're so paranoid about it that sometimes we just overkill in trying to keep that connection, that reassuring connection.
Overreact
strong.
to it.
We, in fact, almost all the behaviors that actually push our man away are really
in reaction to.
Well, they're really attempts to connect.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Okay.
Almost everything that we do that is hurtful is really just a cry for please pay attention to me. Please pay attention to our relationship. Please, let's connect. And then one of the things we learn in WifeSavers, a huge component, is learning how to create that connection, build that connection, and express
how
our
to
need for that connection
effectively and properly in those ways.
In a way that draws our partner to us instead of pushing him away inadvertently. We don't innocently, So we all have a little bit of insecurity maybe left over from being children, especially those of us who have suffered as children, maybe from abandonment or whatever in our early life that created this doubt in our minds about our worthiness or being wanted, or that sense of insecurity might have really been created later in life when we're rejected in a romantic relationship. So previous relationships can undermine our sense of security, our sense of self-worth, and then we can't open up and really trust again or love again. And so though I'm asking our listeners to think about their own relationship, and though you might be annoyed sometimes by your other partner asking for those kind of reassurances, I think it's unwise to discount.
Yeah,
like,
them
why
aside.
are you asking me to say, I love you?
Yeah.
Don't try not to do that.
Well, I know, you have
I would treat the need with respect.
Yeah, you've often told me, don't ever leave me.
What I'll say is, you'll never leave me, right?
Yeah.
But do you know how many years it's been since I've said that?
No, I know. That's what I'm getting at, is that is a very real thing. You articulated that earlier.
Very real.
But it also, in our relationship in the past, has just kind of come out. It just kind of blurts out there. To me, in me, it's like out of nowhere. It's
and you're like, what?
Yeah,
what did I do that made you think that?
Where did that come from?
And it really is nothing you did. It's born of me.
Right. It's interesting that it's innate. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to do what I can so you will stop asking that question. Right?
I'll beat you to the punch and say I love you or whatever. Yeah. Well, the way we communicate security is something like you just said. We reassure and try and be a little proactive and not have to be asked
Yes.
All the time.
Yes,
So
that's right.
reassure and connect. Consistency, don't you think? Routine, ritual, predictability.
That's the word I was thinking of, is being predictable. I think in any relationship, but especially in a marriage relationship, you as one side of the partnership, I know I want you to be predictable. I want to know.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
really?
for example, let's turn it around. Because much of my career was spent traveling, right, overseas and away for weeks at a time. You have to know that I'm going to act and uphold our
agreed upon standards,
whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Whatever
and our routines, that I'm going to hear from you every morning,
whatever
and
it
every
is.
night.
That's right. But that it's by knowing and by really knowing that your partner is predictable, it's freeing to the relationship, because you're not have to worry about, I can't tell how many times I was in some country where the guys say, okay, let's go to this massage parlor and things like that. Literally. I mean, it's just like, see ya,
Okay.
I just made that
a level
choice.
Of trust,
right. It has to come from a basis of trust, but it becomes very freeing to the relationship for both sides. When I know, and that, how things are going to play out for the most part.
Well, one thing we can do, and that I think you and I have gotten pretty good at, honestly, is turning toward. Mm-hmm. And that's conveying in tiny pocket-sized ways, I am here for you.
Right.
And it kind of means immediately responding in a positive way when your partner makes any bid for your attention. And we go into that in depth in episode 18, to transform your marriage. Focus on this. And that is the truth, that the principle and the practice of turning toward can truly,
by itself
it can't
have a
be
big
understated.
impact.
Transform your marriage. So listen to that one. If you haven't already, it would be a good idea to review it, even if you had. All right. So that was S.
Yes. And what comes next? Don't tell me. I have to ask my grandson. Which one comes next. T. Yes.
Trueness. Isn't that kind of a fun word? I picked it on purpose over trust.
Oh, okay.
All right. Trueness. And trueness counters the feeling unsafe emotionally, which is something we're all prone to.
So if security then overcomes the trueness, whatever, fear of abandonment or, apathy,
whatever.
Trueness.
I
like
feel
that.
safe emotionally.
Yeah, okay.
So the message is, I am always authentic with you.
What a great word.
You like that word?
I love that word.
Why?
It's not something that is used a lot, but it just connotes this whole, no masks on, no pretense,
transparency.
and kind of this easiness, kind of this smoothness, if that makes sense. There's no drama. There's no.
I'm not second guessing. What are you really thinking?
Yeah.
What is it that you're really trying to do?
Yeah, there's second to hidden agenda or anything. But you are wide open if you're going to be authentic. With someone.
Well, I think what it means is, I may not be as emotionally responsive or as open as you are all the time, or as maybe you want me to be all the time, but I promise that our relationship is grounded in authenticity, and I will try to honor your need to know how I am feeling.
Okay. Honor your need to know how you're feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to feel shut out,
right, or
left out or lied to.
Certainly.
That, any kind of violation of trust. So this is kind of maybe the most rigorous of all the principles, in that you got to stay on your toes to think, am I hiding something?
So you
am
say
I being
rigorous,
real?
You mean maybe could we say one of the most difficult to achieve?
Well, I'm going to say spiritually rigorous.
Oh.
It takes you, it's a real maturation process.
Okay.
To
higher order, higher level
Yes,
stuff,
to be authentic.
Yeah,
to not be, to be willing to be vulnerable and to say how you feel. Now, you haven't pinned me on the word honesty because I really thought you might. Why didn't I use the word honesty?
I just heard authentic and just kind of responded to that. But yeah, when I think about it, I mean, that's probably one of the things. Billy Joel made millions of dollars talking about honesty. It was a great,
how did
song.
that song go?
I'm not going to sing it, but it's such a lonely word. He says, honesty. Yeah. Everyone is so untrue.
Ooh,
that it's hard to achieve, and that culturally, I think, it's one of those things where, you're not being honest with me, or if you could just be honest with me, or
wait. I am being honest with you, and here it comes.
Here it comes. Sit down.
And that's why I didn't use it.
Okay.
Because I think sometimes we use honesty as a cover to criticize.
A vehicle.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a cover. Like, it makes me look
No, I understand.
honorable in my attempts to put you in your place.
Okay.
And we tell ourselves, I'm just trying to help them. I'm just trying to raise them up. I'm just trying to point things out that'll help them. And in actuality, it's very hurtful in a relationship.
Well, we did, one of our podcasts, we talked about constructive criticism, right?
And what is constructive criticism? It's only constructive when someone is open to it and asks for it. Right. That's when it's constructive. So we're going to kind of veer away from that word honesty and talk more about being authentic. I love this quote from George MacDonald. To be trusted is a greater compliment than being loved. So that's another component about being authentic. And I'm always authentic with you, is that you feel like I'm trustworthy. Your revelations, your feelings are safe.
Yeah, I feel, that's what I was just thinking. I feel safe that I can communicate in this way and openly. And
yes, and I'm not going to share it inappropriately.
Or whatever.
And that I'll defend you. I'll stand up for you. I won't bash you in front of other people ever. That's also part of this aspect of trueness, being true to one another. And so how do you do that? I'll give you some really general ideas. You got to embrace individuality. You have to let your partner be, if you want them to be authentic, you got to let them be who they are, be themselves, and not pressure them to think just like you do.
Or do things the way you would do them.
Right. And it's communication's a big part of authenticity, right? Because you got to convey whatever it is that the message you're trying to send, and not expect that your partner can read your mind all the time. They never can read your mind. So you got to convey everything in marriage. Never hint, never manipulate, never assume.
Yeah, it's interesting though, as we approach 15,344 days, people say this all the time, and it's true. I find that we are finishing each other's sentences.
That's kind of a joke, but
it's true. It's interesting, and that you
we
paused.
Just did it. I said, but you.
That's right.
It's true.
But no, just earlier today, you were talking about something, and you paused. And I just knew exactly how you were going to finish the sentence. I did. And you did. And so that comes. It just comes with time. And this type of, developing these kind of things that we're talking about.
But wherever you're at in your marriage, if you've got to make a change to communicate in a more straightforward manner, just say it straight up.
Here it comes.
And not in an unkind way. That's what we were talking about the honest criticism.
Right.
We're always kind. We're always trying to
right.
be as understanding and kind as we can. But anyway, we don't want to load our communication with false ideas, false manipulations, masks, our true intentions, right? We don't want to mask that. All right. I do authentic also means being present as often, as fully as possible.
Well, you say present, meaning...
Yeah, like I'm really tuned into you.
Yeah, not just being there in the same room, but mentally and emotionally.
No, I can't do... We're in the same room often, right? But when you can't, we're doing totally different things. But when I bid for your attention, like we were just talking about security, you send the message, I'm here for you, by turning to look at me and or raising your eyebrows and like, what can I do for you? And you do that all the time for me. When I say I need to talk or quit, you're like, I'm on the job. It's just
something to do.
I have to be careful.
I can solve this problem. Bring it on.
I'm like, no, you don't have to stop what you're doing right now. I just want to, and you're like, nope, I got it. Anyway, I really appreciate that. And I think it has a lot to do with where we are today. And when we're authentic, I feel like you can breathe, the real you can breathe and become whatever you want to become.
There are 3 letters that have made that the most capable for me in our marriage to be able to do that, to respond like that.
What is it?
DVR is what it is. So, I'm not kidding.
The greatest modern invention for the blessing of marriages ever, the DVR, because I can pause.
That's right.
I can come back later and finish my whatever.
I'll catch that play later.
That's too funny.
I know I can just come back and I can give you attention.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Because something is always bidding for your attention.
Yes.
Right? You have to make the choice of where do I place it. So that eliminated one of those choices for me.
Too funny. Too funny. Too bad you can't pause me, and say, can I just play later? We're going to break now for just a minute so I can invite you to my free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. In my work with women in over 70 countries, I found that most of us, when it comes to our husbands and sons, think like Carol in Kenya.
I was expecting him to think like me, behave like me.
Or Dana in Utah.
Shouldn't we just be the same? And shouldn't we just agree?
Or Anne in California.
I grew up in a culture where there was a lot of eye rolling and sighing about guys.
And that's too bad, because when we act or react based on false expectations, we end up feeling like Catherine.
I didn't feel I could relate to him because I didn't understand him.
Or getting riled up like Carol.
Made me mad. It's crazy. It was frustrating,
And acting like Anne.
I used to think he should know what I wanted without me having to ask.
Which just erodes our relationships and blows up our dreams. So that's why I created Understanding Your Husband and Sons, a super fun, eye-popping deep dive into his brain, body, and emotional makeup. Women have been coming from all over the world and coming away from our time together with an exhilarating sense of hope and power, because now women like Amber, Ann, Dana, and Allison understand
how to communicate my needs, how to be clear about it, how not to be run around, how not to manipulate.
The way I communicate with him isn't any more aggressive or threatening to him.
I can see why he's reacting or why he's responding that way.
That's helped to avoid a lot of the hurt feelings that I used to have.
So if, like Jeannie in Canada, you're thinking,
okay, I need to reboot how I think about marriage and men and how they're loved.
Please join me at this free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. I'll teach you things you have never heard before and that you won't hear anywhere else. Science and strategies that will knock your socks off and make all the difference in your relationships.
And it just changes everything about how I see him.
There's this huge potential that I was not really tapping into because I didn't fully understand it.
We're both so much happier now.
And in how you see yourself.
My confidence as a woman has skyrocketed.
We've made it so easy. Just go to wifesavers.org/masterclass and choose a day and time. I'll meet you there and even answer your questions live. Because like Carol in Kenya or Cindy in Argentina, you'll want to be able to say,
oh, we're wired differently. And that's the beauty of life.
and it set me free. It allowed me to say, okay, I understand now. And I loved him more than ever.
wifesavers.org/masterclass. All right. Fourth principle: overcomes loneliness, unfair judgment, and unnecessary conflict. Now that sounds worthwhile, doesn't it? And it starts with the letter
RSTV.
U. The letter U, and it is understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding. And here's the message. I want to know what you're thinking and feeling. I want to know.
So that's kind of a...
Help me understand, sweetheart.
Yeah. All these things we've talked about around the trueness or security, if I don't really want to understand...
If I don't feel like you really
and
want to
if you
understand,
don't feel like I do care about understanding, then none of it's of any efficacy at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm all upset. And if you say... stop feeling that way.
Yeah, you shouldn't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Instead of saying, help me understand why you're so upset.
Right.
the whole world opens up. It's just, it lifts whatever I'm feeling almost instantly.
Mm-hmm.
I have a surge of hope that this is going to get fixed. This is going to get resolved when you say, help me understand.
There's an adage in sales about objections that when the customer says no, it's not a rejection, it's a request for more information.
Ooh.
Because they don't have enough information to make a decision.
Oh, interesting.
And that's kind of the thought process you go to.
Okay.
And that's kind of in that
So when you
light.
sort of feel shut down by your partner.
See, or you
What?
say,
how do you deal with that?
you're all, I shouldn't, if I say, you shouldn't feel that way.
I'm going to say what he really wants is more information.
No, that's my objection.
Okay.
Basically.
All right.
Whereas if I say, well, now help me understand how you're feeling that way, I'm making a request for more information.
Yes, that's all you want.
Which is going to help
information.
Me. Right. And not only help me understand, but I've learned too, it helps you process.
You've learned that it is extremely helpful and therapeutic, and we're going to get through the tsunami or whatever it is I got going on.
Right. The deluge.
If you will just take the opportunity to try to understand.
Right.
And you know that everything WifeSavers and any podcast listener who's listened to more than one of our podcasts will know that we always go to understanding before we talk about solutions.
Mm-hmm,
we always try to understand where the other is coming from. Because here's the deal. Spouses who appear to be mean or hurtful don't usually do it intentionally. When our spouse appears to be mean or hurtful, they do not do it intentionally. Not usually.
There's some of that, but it's rare.
Yeah, there's exceptions.
Sure.
But generally, the hurt you feel is sort of a side effect. It's not the principal cause.
It's a symptom of
It's something going
else.
on with them.
Yeah.
Right? It's a side effect. So most of the intentions behind our actions are hidden, even from ourselves. So if your spouse is feeling depressed or angry and they come off and they're doing something that seems just so illogical to you or even hurtful to you, those are just behaviors that are outcomes of other feelings.
Something
you know what I'm
going
saying?
on.
It's a secondary.
Yeah. That's why you need more information.
Right. That's why you need more information. And the other thing about understanding is you can't assume that your partner is always, that everything's okay with them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're not having a meltdown that day. Just because there's not a
they haven't
nervous breakdown.
articulated it.
Yeah.
Right.
We all have individual problems.
Sure.
We all have angst and upsets that we just kind of contain. And we just try to get on. And so I really appreciate when you try to get to those kind of underlying currents. Even if there's no big tumult going on, you'll say to me, how was your day? tell me how you're feeling. How are you doing? And when you're far away on a trip, you'll send me a text, say, how are you doing, honey? You're concerned and you want to understand how I'm feeling and why I'm feeling that way on any given day. And you're not threatened by my feelings.
No. And again, I'll just reiterate that I've learned how beneficial it is for you to be able to articulate or talk things through.
And when I'm stabilized, it's good for you.
Move forward.
Right?
That's
Right.
That's
so don't talk down to your partner. Don't try to talk them out of their feelings. Don't immediately try to fix stuff. Don't discount those feelings. Don't sweep them away. You don't need fancy listening techniques like rephrasing or anything like that. You just listen. It's just listening, active, engaged listening. It translates as love. It really does.
Another way that I've found is helpful for you and perhaps for a lot of women is to be close when you are talking. Maybe cuddling or, not in a sexual way, but just an opportunity for you to feel.
Touch helps me.
Yeah, close and secure in that sense will help you kind of open up. And
I've learned that you open up better when we're actually doing something. Like we're walking or we're doing some kind of project together. Yeah. We're sitting side by side and we've talked a lot about informational sort of subjects. That's when you kind of start opening up. It kind of takes that physicality and the information kind of conversation to warm you up to opening up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true of us. All right. I do recommend Seeing Eye to Eye, What to Do When You Don't, episode 16, for more about understanding. Okay, ready?
Number 5.
I told you this is sort of a rehash or an overview of the whole year.
Yeah.
Ready? Number 5 starts with
V.
V, that's right. So this 5th principle will help both of you feel less overwhelmed or overused or underappreciated.
Or underused, maybe? I don't know. Overappreciated and underused.
Something like that. Or feeling unimportant. Or
overpromise and undersell. That's what
This will also counter a fear that a lot of women have, which is a fear of losing themselves. Just surrendering themselves
the sovereignty
to the whole marriage.
Thing.
They just get sucked up in we and
the Borg. Assimilated.
Yes, you will be assimilated. Resistance is futile. So, and I think it counters the male fear of failure. That's a lot.
Okay.
A lot. We're promising a lot.
Yeah, you are. I better deliver.
But here's the principle. It's the validation.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we all want to feel very validated.
And what do you think the message would be in validation?
I think that the message is that I am, say you've used "I am here for you" before, right?
It's a little more than "I'm here for you."
Yeah, I mean, you can count on me. Right?
Yeah, support you.
I've got you. I've got your back.
I got your back. That's
I'm
a
here.
Great way to put it.
Okay.
I've got your back. I believe in you. I support you. See, that goes even further than I'm here for you.
Yeah, I'm over here. If you need me, I'm on the couch.
Right. That goes into, you got a big dream. I got your back. I believe in you.
But I think it also, it's critical because you've got a dream. I'm doing something. I'm working on something. To have your best friend, your partner in life,
the person who knows you best,
truly with you, and it provides the validation of those things that you're trying to accomplish. Because
that you're worthy as an individual, and your dreams are worthy.
Even when you were writing your book, how many times I have to say, "Come on, you can do this. I believe in you."
Right when I was ready to drop the whole thing.
Why? I mean, that's
you
just
do that for me every day.
One little example, but it's a big thing. Not everybody's going to write a book, but it's something that can be done.
They've got their own projects.
Well, that's it. But
they need an ally.
The point is that ally helps on a daily basis, or getting through the as our writer has the 5, the 3, and the 2-year-old, right? And those daily, everyday life.
She needs validation probably every day. And who better than her spouse to give it to her to say what you are doing with the children, what you're doing to save money, what you're doing.
Support me in education.
It is so appreciated. It is so worthy. It is so noble. And to be reminded and be told that by the person you love. Yes. Validation. Absolutely. I can't say enough about it. You know what? I'm thinking we skipped a principle under the last one.
No. I'm watching the alphabet here.
Under understanding, I want to put a really big one that we might not talk about otherwise, and that's forgiveness.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's got to be just so critical because you are going to misunderstand at some point and be misunderstood at times.
Right.
And so, that's really important.
Forgiveness is a huge component of understanding.
Right. Good.
Sorry, I had to go backwards there for a minute.
It's all right. We're following.
So, validation. And if you really want to focus in on that, and I do challenge our listeners to take all of these principles, RSTU, VW, and our surprise ending, take them all and think about what areas are we really strong at? What areas are we lacking? And then talk about them together and congratulate yourself and think about why are we so strong in this area? And then why do we feel like we have some
work to do somewhere else?
In another. So if you want to focus on validation, listen to episode 8. Do you believe in him? How to show him and why you want to?
Mm-hmm.
I would also recommend that episode 12, the infamous episode 12 that I think has more listens than any other of our episodes.
Most popular.
Which is His Criticism Hurts. So that will help you to avoid criticism and to be more validating. All right. 6th principle starts with a
W.
And
I think everybody should really appreciate by now how important Sesame Street was to me as a younger person. So
you got your alphabet down,
I'm there,
honey.
baby. I'm totally there. Would you like for me to do it backwards? I could do the. So.
You can?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
WVUTSR.
Oh, I thought you were going to do the whole alphabet. Backwards.
Well, we're kind of focusing in on 7. I can do 7 at a time.
So this 6th principle strengthens both partners equally so that one doesn't dominate or control the other.
Well, that's interesting that you want to say that here because that's kind of, to me, been inherent in our whole conversation.
The sense of equality.
Yeah.
All right.
Fairness or evenness.
Well, now that's true. You could take all these principles and they kind of culminate in this 6th one, which is we-ness.
Well, we're making up words now.
I made it up.
Okay.
But put a hyphen between the word we and
okay. I'm with you.
And what it means is we are this is hard to say. We are our own club.
Oh boy, we have a paper sign on the door. Can't come in the room, right?
This is our club.
This is our club.
And we are our team. We're a team. We're like a universe unto ourselves.
We are protons and neutrons floating around each other.
Well, in a sense. We're our own creature. Yeah. We're our own.
Well, you talk a lot about exclusivity.
I do.
Right.
As being
in a
part
relationship.
Of a grand marriage.
Right. And that pushing everything out. And
the castle on the hill.
Castle, pulling up the drawbridge,
garden.
Whatever it is.
Yes.
And so that relates here, right?
Here's the real message. I see our marriage as a full partnership, and we'll keep our intimate, emotional, and physical relationship preeminent and exclusive.
I think those are 2 very, very important words. The preeminence, gives you the focus and when you're weighing out decisions and
priorities.
Stuff. But the exclusivity, I know, and I've been guilty of this in the past. And one thing that I've had to learn is making fun of you or telling a joke at your expense. Right, which is so easy. The cheapest form of humor is at somebody else's expense. And
Yeah, it makes me sad even thinking about it now.
Yeah, I know. It was a long
Years
time
later.
ago. And you had to come to me and tell me that you didn't appreciate that. And that was just a small lesson in this bigger idea of the exclusivity where you don't do things outside of that relationship at the expense of others.
Loyalty.
Yeah.
There's some allegiance in there.
Yeah.
And when a wife or a husband is feeling insecure about this sense of we-ness, in that I can't even tell you how many personal mentor meetings I have had with women. This is their central issue. They're not sure that their husband gets this idea of exclusivity or allegiance, as you're saying that, and the idea that they're preeminent, because the husband is trying to balance out, and we talked about this in just our last podcast episode about dealing with extended family and the in-laws and stuff. And so she's like, I feel pitted against his mother and sisters. He doesn't stand up for me in those situations. That is very destructive and harmful in a marriage. And so the marriage always takes preeminence. And I try, in that last podcast, number 34, I try to help explain the predicament that we feel in sometimes when we're
torn.
We don't know whether to align ourselves in any given situation with our spouse or with others. But I'm going to tell you just a good rule of thumb.
If you're going to have to pick one,
always pick the spouse. Always pick your spouse.
It's downhill from there.
Yes. So otherwise, he is going to feel disconnected and alone. It also goes to making decisions together.
Okay, yeah,
so
very much so.
I have literally heard of husbands who come home and say, guess what? I bought a house today.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say car.
No.
We're talking a house.
Literally. I guess what?
And
I signed the papers.
Shock.
I bought a house today.
Yeah, wow.
Or whatever. Or I applied for graduate school today. Like,
just major decisions that
out
of the blue. Yeah.
Right. So that does not convey a sense of we-ness, because any partner, but a woman especially, is like we talked about, her desire for connection, for relationship. She longs for connection. She longs for friendship. And he longs for intimacy and intimate and recreational companion.
Yeah, I watched our youngest daughter and her husband. That's been such a huge part of their lives that he has been a big instigator of, is this recreation.
Yes.
And she's always been kind of a physical, individual.
So she gets right into the thick of it. It is one of the strengths of their marriage.
Yeah, it really, really is.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, I love this quote from Hubie Brown in You and Your Marriage. The husband lying on the couch in the front room may shout to his wife in the kitchen and say, honey, I love you. But it would be much more convincing if he would express it by taking a dish towel or a broom to help a bit. Sometimes a man says to his wife, I love you, but his conduct says more loudly, I love me.
Well, we could go on and on about
that goes two ways, though. You've often thanked me for my support of you working.
And traveling.
Meaning your work taking you away or whatever. And I'm you can do this, you can go for it. But it took me a lot to get to the point of feeling like I could do that. Mm-hmm. And I detail that in my book, Wife for Life, The Power to Succeed in Marriage, and teach the reader the actual process that I went through. I think we talk a little bit about it in one of our other podcast episodes, the one about why you want to believe in him, and how to show him that, and why you want to show him that you believe in him. But that goes very much two ways. So here's the other idea about we-ness. A lot of women will come to me and say, I don't feel like we have a lot in common. So we don't feel really, really tight like a twosome. We don't share interests or whatever. And this is assuming that connection only comes through similarities, but actually connection comes through understanding and through empathy, right?
Yeah, and learning to deal with the opposites.
And you can intentionally create shared experience. So we talk a lot about that in episode 6. We have little in common, creating connection despite your differences. And episode 33, not enough couple time. So if you really want to strengthen your sense of we-ness, I'm going to highly recommend something that we do right here and exemplify in all our podcasts, which is conversation.
Yeah, time.
And time.
Time, yeah.
Conversation and time. That creates shared experience. So you've heard a lot about that on the podcast over and over and over, how important time is. All right. So we've got romance, security. What comes after ST? Trueness, I'm there. Understanding, validation, and we-ness, which brings us to the big number 7.
But I've been waiting this whole time.
And this 7th principle can strengthen your relationship in a unique way, in a way that nothing else can, literally. And because it really counters all of the fears when it is at its best. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Can you think what X would stand for?
Marks the spot? Has something to do with spots?
Well, I couldn't even think of anything for X, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. Think of a capital X and put a lowercase s in front of it.
And maybe a lowercase e in front of it.
You don't need the e. You don't need the S, X.
Oh, yeah. Who needs vowels anyway?
Who needs vowels?
All right.
I call it the 7th principle, XYZ.
Like sexy, maybe kind of, but
I don't even know what YZ means. You can figure that out
you're
yourself.
You're finishing the alphabet. We appreciate that you're closing things off there.
XYZ.
Okay.
And what the message is in XYZ is we share our bodies and souls exclusively with one another, and in a way that creates emotional as well as physical intimacy. That's the message in XYZ. Now, that is a very, very, very big topic, and we've not really attacked it full on in any of our podcast episodes, and that's because we were working all year long, for over a year, on a whole course on the subject, which has recently been released, Conversations on Physical Intimacy for Wives and Their Husbands. We're thrilled with how it's been received. We're very proud of it. And we know already that it's helping so many.
Yeah, we've had a lot of responses. And the whole point, which is a thread that goes through our conversation here today, is that it's all about that, getting that conversation going and being able to really communicate,
understanding and validating.
Yeah, which is often a difficult thing for people to do. So
it's the vehicle to help you do that.
Right. The conversations, as we call them, are structured in a way where you can go through them or topical.
Exactly.
To develop that.
So because it is so significant, this XYZ, we'll talk about it next week in our...
Oh, you're going to make me wait?
I know it's your favorite subject.
I'm an expert on it, too. I have a lot to say.
In our next podcast episode, we'll talk more about XYZ and the new course. So the one right after this one, be ready and be looking for that. And you might very well want to get your husband in on that one, too. So... shall we wrap this up?
I think so.
When a marriage has two people that are striving toward RSTUVW XYZ, what's the outcome? Each partner feels free to become, to mature, to discover who they really are and develop who they really want to become. And the relationship fuels that growth, fuels that maturity, and sustains the relationship for a lifetime. RSTUVW. Sex-wise. So, honey, do you love our subscribers as much as I do?
I am so in love with our subscribers.
And do you think we earned 5 stars today?
I'd say we're pushing 6.
Well, I hope they do something about it, and I hope they join my free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. It works, right? I understand you.
More and more.
Just go to wifesavers.org/masterclass.
Home is with you wherever that may